And welcome back, everybody, to Double Down with Breslo, where we cover everything in the world of sports betting, the industry of sports betting in particular. And today, I think we've got a first for our show. We're going to dive into the world of gambling in Web3. Jonathan Strause is the founder and CEO and chairman of Invincible GG, an interactive gaming company specializing in skill-based competitive gaming and AI-powered virtual sports. And these are virtual sports that will be found in Web3, but I'm not even sure I understand what Web3 is, but that's what we've got Jonathan here to explain to all of us. Jonathan, welcome to the program.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
I feel like we've stepped into the future with this episode. And behind you, we've already got AI and Web3 happening. But I think that is a fair question to start with to make sure people understand the terminology and so on. And I know you've said Web3 is important to what you guys are doing. So explain to us what Web3 is.
Sure. Well, Web3 really means the metaverse. It means companies, products utilizing blockchain technologies to whatever their business model supports. In our case, we've always had the vision of people owning our AI entities. And it's one thing to own an entity that sits on someone's server. So if you're playing a video game and you have a fighter, and that fighter sits on EA or Ubisoft servers, you don't actually control it yourself. It's their technology, their code. What blockchain does for us is allow us to actually give our players true ownership of their entities. So the entities sit on the blockchain. They are their possession from day one. And so we're leveraging that technology to provide true ownership for players. So it seems like a little nuance that's not that important, but in fact it is, because if our company up and folded, which we're not going to do, where would that asset go? In this case, the people own it from day one. They control it themselves, and they can buy and sell, trade it. In our case, breed it as well with other players on their own, and they control the entities. So that's one thing we use the blockchain and the metaverse Web3 technology for. The other is we are leveraging blockchain as well to have gaming tokens. So players can participate, they can breed, they can raise utilizing our cryptocurrency, as well as other cryptocurrency, as well as US dollars and other fiat currencies to participate. But we have our own token as well.
Okay. And then the metaverse, I think most people think about that as far as what they've seen in movies and so on. You know, was it Ready Player? What's the name of the movie?
Ready Player One.
Ready Player One. Is that an important element to what you're doing, that there be some metaverse world like that where these races take place?
It is. I mean, the word metaverse is probably overused, and people it's a word that has a lot of different definitions for different people. You know, our viewpoint is there's a flesh and blood physical racing world. We're recreating that in quote unquote the metaverse, which means virtually. And so we have CGI versions of famous tracks. We have, we believe, true to life virtual horses that are intelligent, AI powered, and we're recreating the real world in a virtual space. And so when we say in the metaverse, we really mean we're trying to recreate everything there is about racing that's exciting to people in a virtual world, which we just term the metaverse. Now,
gotcha.
Other people,
yeah, you guys are the sole creator of this metaverse, if you want to call it that. We're not talking about being able to participate, at least for now, in some other metaverse.
Yeah, well, everyone has it again. So when gaming companies talk about the metaverse, or Meta talks about the metaverse, the question is, there's no one virtual platform that people are participating in. There's a lot of different games that have created, like, you know, a game like Fortnite, where people have created a virtual world and can term it the metaverse, but that's their creation. I've yet to see anyone with the ultimate metaverse. It's more of a philosophical question about a virtual world where people can exist, participate, socialize, build communities, and have gaming experiences virtually.
Yeah, but for what it's worth, Facebook supposedly has spent many, many billions creating a metaverse, and it's been people have been pretty dubious about what they've achieved, and now they seem to have pivoted away from it. I mean, what is the latest that you hear from Facebook on this?
Same as you, we're waiting with bated breath as to what they're doing. Wish I had a couple of $1 billion to build our metaverse, but that's, we'll wait and see.
Yeah, and then the other one is being created, isn't it, by the Bored Ape guys?
Well, the Bored Ape guys were pioneers in the Web3 space in creating what NFTs, so non-fungible tokens, which are essentially artwork that are unique digital pieces of art that people were buying, and they were one of the first and biggest to do it well. We do a similar thing. We also have NFTs. Our AI virtual horses are NFTs de facto, but we're the first guys to really develop what we call dynamic or multifunctional NFTs, which means we kind of go against the phrase non-fungible. Our entities actually change. So in our game, when people develop their horses, they train them, they improve them, the horses get experience. All that is constantly being kept in the metadata of the NFTs. The NFT is actually changing. So it's the idea of being non-fungible is not true in our case. So we're kind of on the very edge, very cusp of what's coming in terms of that aspect of metaverse technology or Web3 technology in terms of NFTs.
So to get involved in what you're doing, as a person like me, is the first step getting a horse, which is buying an NFT?
The first step would be to go to our website, register, and participate in our we're currently having a private beta, which is 500 folks that we've selected to participate and give us feedback on the game. We'll be going to a much larger public beta soon and a full release in the first quarter. So the first step is really getting the game. Our game is a mobile game, which is also a first for Web3. But our focus really is not on, we have Web3 technology, but our focus is not on Web3 community exclusively. We're trying to build a mobile game that appeals to horse racing enthusiasts and skill gaming enthusiasts globally, which is a much, much larger market than Web3 gaming. So people will be able to get our game through the App Store on Apple or through Google Play, just like any other mobile game. And our game is free to play. People can participate, own horses, develop horses for no money or for the regular, what we call fiat currency, so US dollars or their local currency. If they want to participate in the Web3 aspects, they can, and we facilitate that. But the game is primarily geared towards mobile gamers. But we're trying to bring those folks into the Web3 gaming space as well.
So when we think about regular horse racing, there's two ways to participate in the sport. One is to actually own horses. The other is to simply go to the racetrack and bet on the races. So are you offering both opportunities potentially?
Of course. Why not, right? And we are providing people with the experience of ownership, which, as you know, is hard to achieve in the real world. It takes a lot of money and a lot of time and effort to own real horses. We make it much easier in the virtual world. And I think people really enjoy that experience. We are a true skill game. Our whole concept as a company, whether it's horse racing or our next games, which is a 3-on-3 basketball game and a fighting game, our whole concept is people competing with their brains versus their thumbs. I'm not sure how good of a video gamer you are, but as soon as you start requiring tactile skills, the market gets very small. The number of guys that actually can compete gets very small. But when it comes to people using their brains, it's a much, much larger market. So horse ownership, competing peer-to-peer or in public races with your horses for real money is the primary focus of what we do. We also distribute that content for legal wagering. So we spent many years taking our platform, having it patented, taking it to Nevada, having it approved by the Nevada Gaming Commission, having it approved to GLI standards, passing a field trial, and distributing it to casinos for real money, real wagering. So to answer your question directly, yes, people can compete head to head for real money as if they're a horse owner. It's true horse ownership. That content, just like real horse racing, is broadcast for wagering as well. So if you're in Nevada, you can go to casinos on the strips and wager on our product. We are currently rolling out countrywide in Panama at the track, betting shops, casinos across the country with Kaderi. We have a global expansion plan with them as well. And we're in dialogue, latter stage dialogue to finalize deals in the UK and Australia for distribution for wagering as well. So we're trying to step by step increase the dissemination and wagering on our races, at the same time increasing our player base who are participating in these races.
So you have a Nevada gaming license.
We're not directly licensed. Our platform is licensed and approved. We work through a company called Competition Interactive, who is a licensed operator in the state of Nevada. So we've licensed our platform to them, and they're the ones that are a licensed partner. And we did that honestly for convenience, because as you probably know, it's a many-year journey to get licensed. And we felt the fastest way to market was to do a licensing deal with an already licensed manufacturer.
Right. Now, are we up and running yet in Nevada? Is there a casino I can walk into and bet on your races?
You could have walked in a casino a few weeks ago and bet on our races. They're actually at the moment not live, because we're waiting for the release of the beta to let people. So in casinos like South Point and some of the Boyd properties, we're going to be running, as part of our beta, specific contests in those casino locations where people who own the horses will be actually run their horses, and people can wager on the big screens. Currently, we were live for a long period of time with BetMGM to get our field trial approval. We had to do a statewide field trial test of having the parimutuel side. You know, from a parimutuel standpoint, you have to have liquidity. So we had to have, I think we had 15 or 16 casinos running concurrently, and people wagering on all those casinos and our products in order to pass the field trial. But we are fully integrated. We have a deal with the Nevada Parimutuel Association to distribute our content to all the casinos in the state that take horse bets. We've already integrated with Las Vegas Dissemination Company to distribute to the entire state. And we've done specific integrations with 15 or 16 casinos that have and will be showing our races on a daily basis.
How does the real horse race industry feel about you guys?
I think I think they're excited about what we bring. I think they view us as a way to attract younger demographics. I think it's the right way to look at us, which is the biggest problem in horse racing is the fan base is aging, and getting smaller. And what we've already done, our first NFT sale, and we were sold out in minutes. And the amount of response from the Web3 community has been incredible. And so if you look at, like, you go to our Twitter page, I think our Twitter page has gone from like 74 people to over 7,000 people in 10 days. We already have more followers and more instant impressions than both Stronach and Churchill combined. So the question of are people who are young, and Web3 people are young, excited about horse racing and virtual horse racing? Absolutely. And our business model is to capture those people in our game, and via our partnerships with companies like the major racing companies in the US and then major racing companies in Australia and the UK, to create a cycle where people are playing our game, their races are running at the tracks, they can see their horses run on the tracks, they can bet on their horses at the tracks, and we do specific contests and events where we give everyone in the grandstands a horse, and that horse runs on that day, and the winners get great prizes, and those people come into our game and we send them back to the track. So we're bringing younger people into the industry through our game. That's the goal. And I think that is really appealing to the horse racing industry.
So you have some actual partnerships with the horse
Sure,
racing industry?
So for example, our tote partner in Panama is United Tote, which is part of Churchill Downs. So we're already in a partnership with them. We have already integrated with the 3 largest totes in the US. So that includes first United Tote, and then Bet Makers as well, because we were integrated with Stronach, with the prior company name Sportech, before Bet Makers bought them. So we're already integrated with all those guys, and we're in latter stage negotiations with the largest region in Australia, the horse racing group there, which does more wagering than one province in the entire United States combined. And then we're in latter stage discussions with the largest horse racing track owner in the UK. do the same.
And then didn't you have to also do licensing deals? Because if I'm understanding you have your horses racing in traditional tracks like Churchill Downs and Santa Anita?
We have historically done licensing deals with many of the major US tracks, and we are converting those deals to now new deals with this Web3 and mobile game as well. So we have incredible tracks that look just like the real tracks, and we're just finalizing the terms of those deals.
So
we of course want to get not just the rights to the track, we want those partners to market to their consumers, their fans, and share in the revenue that comes through our platform back to them. So we think it's a virtuous cycle we're trying to push with these.
You want to be complementary with old school horse racing, and you think you're going to actually help that. Of course, the flip side could be that you could ultimately replace it, but you're saying that's not your intention. But I mean, horse racing has been going down, and it's a very expensive event to put on, and it takes a ton of real estate. And here in Los Angeles, they tore down Hollywood Park and they built a football stadium and a bunch of restaurants and shops and condos. And there's a lot of other tracks that are being looked at being, with the same thing happening to them.
There's something that's already been happening in natural consolidation of the horse racing industry. Other countries, though, horse racing is flourishing, and they're doing a better job of attracting younger demographics into their sport. When you look at virtual racing historically, in markets like the UK and Australia, you see about a 20% penetration of virtual racing to real racing. And when virtual racing was introduced, the entire handle grew. It wasn't like it was cannibalizing the existing handle, it grew. And what it does is it creates content where there was none. People always think there's so much horse racing available in the world, there's always something to bet on. There just isn't. It's about a 20% kind of, you do the white space analysis, only 20% of the time, the wagering time is actually occupied by live horse racing. And so what virtual racing does is provides continuity between the live racing. What our horse racing does, it creates true affinity with people, allows people to actually own the horse, see their horse running, compete. It gives ownership to people who can never have it. So we think it's just going to grow the horse racing industry versus cannibalize it. And as it grows, more content. The other side of it, which I think is the part people overlook, is there's a lot of pressure on the horses in live racing. To maintain revenues, they have to run a lot, and horses break down. And the fact is, if we can somehow allow there to be fewer but better racing, fewer but better wagering opportunities in live racing, then we're helping the industry. We're helping the industry from animal rights and animal protection as well, because it'd be great to have not so many horses breaking down as they do today.
Yeah. Got to take our break. Jonathan Strause, founder, CEO, chairman, Invincible GG, will be back after the break.
We give game day a whole new meaning. Like the Kentucky Derby, Woodford Reserve Bourbon is a spectacle for the senses.
And welcome back, everybody, to Double Down with Breslo. We are speaking with Jonathan Strause. He is the founder, CEO, and chairman of Invincible GG, an interactive gaming company specializing in skill-based competitive gaming. And his specific product we're focused on at the moment is his horse racing product. And I think it's very interesting how your intention is for it to be complementary of traditional horse racing, which is an industry that's in desperate need of help. So, I mean, if this is something that helps the industry, that's amazing. I mean, used to be traditionally the sport of kings. I think in America, wasn't it even ahead of baseball? It was baseball and horse racing at one point that were the top two sports in America.
That's true. And again, we look at things very differently in the United States, because on a global basis, horse racing is still the second largest wagered on sport in the world. And it's the third most watched sport in the world.
Do you have an explanation as to why it fell so dramatically in the US, but not in other places?
I have my opinions on the industry and the way the industry works together or doesn't work together. I think it's part of the problem. I don't want to be on record being the basher of the companies, but the fact is you have three very strong companies, a handful of very strong independents, and they don't work together. And I think that's not the case in other places like Australia and the UK. I think there's a lot more synergy between the major players that push to have a successful industry better than they do here.
Yeah, well, and I don't know how they do it in the other countries that therefore is better than the US. But what I've always said is, I mean, Kentucky Derby is something that still people seem to be interested in and excited about. The problem, in my opinion, is when you're watching that race, it's the first time that you're hearing about these horses and hearing about these jockeys and so on. If it was the Super Bowl, it would be like, oh yeah, these are the two top teams. We've known about them. We've followed them throughout the season. We've seen their ups and downs, see how they barely made it into the playoffs, etc. And we know the whole backstory. And somehow it seems to me that's what needs to be created, is that there's got to be some series that people are following and tracking these horses to see and be fascinated who's going to make it to the Kentucky Derby and then ultimately win. But don't you think that in general, that's a good concept?
I do. I agree. And I think the Breeders' Cup has done a great job of trying to create that kind of a series of, year-long winning you're in series of races that gets you up to the Breeders' Cup. And I think they've done a really good job with that. It's interesting because other markets, we're lucky enough that we're in these discussions. We learn about other markets and what they're doing. And so I compare, in the US, take a company like Churchill Downs, which I would argue is the creme de la creme of the horse racing industry in terms of the companies and the professionalism of which the companies are run. But they are primarily these days a casino company, not a horse racing company. And you look at Australia, take a region like Victoria, and a group like Racing Victoria that works with all the tracks in Victoria, and they've got close to 1 million hardcore horse racing fans in a database, but they also have 1.6 million casual fans in a database that they're trying to work and convert into, continuously playing fans. And they do it with things like night racing and creating real social events around the tracks on a concerted, regular basis, having the kind of events you're talking about, which is having a series of events where horses compete to get to the bigger event. They have other regions are dabbling in ideas of like team racing and trying to create leagues of horse racing. The US is thinking about that too, but they're trying to do things that excite younger players and newer players that haven't been tried before. And I think they do it on a much more kind of collaborative basis in those countries than we do here.
Mm-hmm. So one of the biggest problems today for horse racing in an ADD generation is the fact that, there's one race every 30 minutes. So even if you can get people to go to the track, you're sitting around waiting 30 minutes for a 1-minute race. They've tried to fill that in with simulcast races and so on, but that is where also I presume you step in. So, and as you said, virtual racing is not new. You guys are taking it to another level, but have they been using virtual racing in between the races at racetracks?
They don't. They actually don't. And I think and they use in the betting shops in the UK and betting shops in Australia, and certainly at the tracks in Australia, you can also see the virtual races. What we've done in a product we've tested with a major US company successfully, and then we've also are now rolling out a plan with an Australian company, is what we call Race Day. So it's an app. It's like our Owners Club game, but you're at the track. You're one of 40,000 people in the stands. We give everybody a horse, and a horse is competing in a series of races throughout the day. So in between races, you can wager on simulcast. You can also watch your horse run in a race between races and see how it does and see if you move on in the tournament for real prizes. And those races can be streamed live as well for wagering. So people can actually be at the track owning a horse. That horse is running the same day as they're there. And it's a way just to make the whole experience of being at the track much more exciting because they're participating. Everybody loves to participate. And one of the challenges with horse racing is very few people get to participate.
So how is one of your horse races decided relative to a typical virtual horse race?
Great question. And we're unique in this in our platform, as I mentioned before, is patented. So we use AI-powered simulation. So what our patent actually is on, it's not just AI-powered, it's any form of sports simulation where the result is being determined real time. So most technologies use either an RNG, so they spin an RNG, get an outcome, they go to a database of races that have been pre-recorded, they pull a race out and they broadcast that race. So it's not a live event, it's like a slot machine with the outcome being a pre-recorded video. Other people do mathematical decision tree equations where they'll run a bunch of math for the same outcome as they determine a winner. They go and get the result video and they play it. And that is how 99% of the virtual horse racing, virtual sports in the world are done.
And sorry, to be clear, you're saying they're just pulling historical races?
No, it's just a database of CGI races they've created.
Okay.
Where we're different is we do it all real time. And our horses are truly competing. The gates open, the horses are all have strategies and tactics, they all have capabilities. Every step of the race, they're individually trying to win that race against the other horses. We don't know the outcome, the machine doesn't know the outcome, no one knows the outcome until the horses cross the finish line. And so it's a novel technology. What's really cool about it is when you do things real time, it's like a real sporting event. And so you can have people participate. You can have people own those horses and tell the horses what to do and train those horses and develop them so they can compete better. You can do real-time advertising. You can have one of the cool things we can actually do is have the same horse race running at different tracks, meaning the track is the same, but the stands are different, the branding is different, the marketing is different. It's all a different environment, but it's the same horse race. So if the Hong Kong Jockey Club wanted to show our races, and we don't have a deal, or we're not working on a deal with them, but I'd love to, it could be a race at the Hong Kong Jockey Club. At the same time, you had a race at one of the famous US tracks. And again, the goal is to build liquidity in the pool, because that's where, the more liquidity, the better the betting opportunity, the more appealing it is to gamblers, and that's a better thing. And so our real-time technology provides a lot of benefits that you just can't get from a random number generated race. Mm-hmm. Plus, it's a real race, so it's.
How does the jockey interplay with the horse in your horse race?
So candidly, right now our jockeys are turned off. People always debate about whether jockeys help or they're just along for the ride. In our system currently, we've turned our jockeys off. We will eventually turn them on. We have this concept of roles where we know that our community, the people that play the game, some people like to own horses, some people like to train horses, some people like to breed horses. Not everyone wants to do all those things. And then some people want to ride horses and actually control them. And so we will next year be introducing the roles, and we will eventually be turning on the jockey gameplay where jockeys will be NFTs. And one of the reasons why we haven't done this, candidly, is the hardest thing about the horse racing industry is getting rights. We made a commitment to ourselves and to our board and to our shareholders that we would not ever do anything in a gray market. Like the reason why, if you look at virtual racing companies in Web3, most offer wagering on their races, most offer skill gaming on their races, even though they're not skill games, and they use VPNs to circumvent regulations. We don't do that. We're never going to do that. We're always going to follow the rules. And one of the rules that those companies also have been breaking is utilizing IP without the rights. And so the big rights out there are the horses. Like you won't see Zenyatta in our game because we won't allow anyone to name their horse Zenyatta until Zenyatta, the owners of Zenyatta, give us the rights to do so. Same with our tracks. You'll never see us using a name of a track that's not been licensed to us. And
is that part of what you see in the future, is having the actual horses be virtual?
absolutely. Absolutely.
And they would therefore have the same characteristics of their live companion?
You got it. And we would do that with in a licensed relationship where we're sharing the lion's share of the revenues with the actual IP owner. We just think, and when it comes to things like breeding and creating new horses, having connectivity to real horses is really important. And so,
this would allow some incredible all-time races where Secretariat takes on
Zenyatta, yeah,
absolutely,
absolutely,
or any other horse.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got the greatest of all time all in one race.
Yeah, absolutely. And that would be to us great entertainment, great wagering entertainment.
And how could you make that like really legit, where people would, because I could see people getting quite excited about, the 10 greatest horses ever actually are going to be in a real race together. How could you represent that? And by the way, the outcome of this is very likely to replicate if it had truly happened.
Yeah, so we've done this in the past. So we actually take horses, we take their bloodlines, we take their past performances, and we turn them into AI horses. We did it with Stronach and the Preakness 2 years ago, and ran a virtual Preakness on the Friday before the Preakness. And if you go back to that, and anyone who's follows us knows that we predicted 4 of the top 5 horses with our race. Of the actual race, we got the first horse right, second horse right, third horse was wrong. It came in, had we then flipped to the third and fourth. And so we nailed 4 of the top 5 horses. And that was based on us basically taking those horses and creating AI versions of them, looking at their past performances, and then putting into our simulation model and having them run. And it was really cool because we had the announcer for the Preakness call our race the day before. And anyone that bet on the race based on our AI did really well. It was a great showcase for our technology.
And once again, the jockeys played no role, huh?
The jockeys played no role. So we actually went several years ago and tried to get the rights to jockeys. And it was a very challenging negotiation because it's just, we're a startup company. We don't have a lot of funds. We tend to do partnerships on a revenue share basis. And I think the jockeys are, some of the, most important characters and people in the industry, and they have great value and they value themselves, and we just couldn't get a deal done. And so we think in the future we will.
So I'm curious again, as far as what the focus is, as far as creating these races, and it's all about people owning horses and being on that side of the business. And so they're buying their horses, you're saying they're training their horses, they're preparing them, they're entering them into races, and then ultimately potentially winning prize money, just like a regular horse owner would.
Oh, yeah. In our game, and we only allow it in 37 states where it's permissible, you and I can race one-on-one by ourselves in a match race or with other CPU horses. We can run a real money event. I can say, let's put James, let's put $100 in this race, and you and I can race, and the winner gets the money. Or we can do our entire stable. I can race up to 7 of my horses against 7 of your horses, and the revenues come back, the winnings come back based on which place our horses come in. And
are you doing that under the horse racing parimutuel rules of that state?
That's pure skill gaming contest. So it's a real money skill game. So it's if you're familiar with a company called Skills, who kind of are the pioneers that survived all the arrows in their back, it's they're actually doing it in 42 states. They're doing it in 5 more states than we will, because we're more risk averse than they are. But it's the same when FanDuels and DraftKings were made permissible in a lot of states. It was under the fact that they weren't in conflict with the gaming regs. They were actually a game of skill. We are like there are about 100 more points of skill in what we do than those type of fantasy sports. So
Aren't there a lot of limits on skill as far as, how much you can play for?
There are, and those are everything is state specific. There's
Right.
limits in terms of how big the pool can be, how the pool aligns to the amount being contributed by the players, all that kind of stuff. And so it's differentiated state by state, and we make sure we comply in every state.
Right. So there's that. Then the idea that somebody observing the race could bet on it, then now we're in a whole different category.
We are, and they can only in places where it's been made permissible. So, for example, in Nevada, the platform had to be approved by the Nevada Gaming Commission. We are GLI approved. So in like North Dakota, where we are deployed as well, we had to get licensed in North Dakota. Panama, we got to get licensed. And so as we go state by state, we have to get licensed.
And what laws are you working under there? Is that the state's horse racing laws? Is that how it's being treated? Or is it being treated as sports betting?
It depends on the state. So in Nevada, we had to, like, our partner in Nevada not only had to have a manufacturer's license, they had to go and get a pari-mutuel systems operator's license. So it's treated at so we run both types of races in Nevada. We run RNG based races, which we don't talk much about because it's not as good as the real thing. And we run our AI races. The AI races are pari-mutuel, and so they're treated like true horse, like they're treated like real horse races. It's under, it's esoteric because it's under certain regs, like other sports. Pari-mutuel is the set of regs in Nevada we're under versus the horse racing regs, because the horse racing regs in Nevada have to do with owning physical tracks, running and in Nevada, there's only this, like the state fair meets. And so you have to be in that part of the code, which we're not. So we're in the other pari-mutuel sports part of the regulations in Nevada. And then to go from state to state, there's two ways to go. You can go and either get be permitted under state regs as either a horse race, as a pari-mutuel event, or as a sporting event, or the holy grail for us is to be approved within the Interstate Horse Racing Act as a simulcast event, which we believe and our lawyers believe is permissible. So as we go from a state like Nevada to a state like New York, our perspective is, as long as the Nevada and New York commissions approve a simulcast agreement, it's permissible for wagering on in New York, which is a line of logic we're pushing.
Wow. Fascinating. Well, I got 1,000 more questions, but we got to wrap up. So I'm just going to ask one final one, which is, how did you hit on horse racing as the one that you're going to, and I know you plan on doing others, but you chose this as your first. What was the logic there?
Several things. One, logic of convenience. The technology platform we acquired was already doing horse racing. But it was really more the two things. One is, I already mentioned the scale of the consumer base, that it's the second most wagered on sport in the world and the third most viewed, but also it's the one sport that has a universal standard for wagering. So the tote system, the totalization system, there's a global standard. You have 80% market share with the three largest totes we're already integrated with. So when it comes time to scale the wagering side of things in the dissemination of races globally, there's already systems in place in a easy way to do that. So that was seemed like the best product and the best gaming platform to go to market on. But we are we have, if we had more time, I would tell you about what we're doing on the AI side and 3-on-3 basketball and our fighting, and how we're really utilizing what we think is pretty cool technology we have to make really exciting games in those genres, which we think horse racing is great from a mobile gaming standpoint, but 3-on-3 basketball and combat games, fighting games, is a massive market with millennials and Gen Z.
What about dogs? Since now they seem to be banning dog racing in most places, it's a way to keep the dogs running.
It's easy. That's an easy one for us. We are looking with our UK partner doing dogs in the UK.
Yeah. I mean, it's, they're cute, you get to raise your own dog instead of a horse, and seems like it could be.
It raises all kinds of cool things you can do with AI.
Yeah.
Your dogs, every morning your dog does a new trick for you, right? It's easier to do a dog trick than a horse trick.
Right, exactly. Am I right that I know Florida banned it, right? Is it pretty much banned in all the US?
I'm not following it closely. I think it's I don't know where dog racing is currently legal in the U.S. Maybe.
Well, and by the way, horse racing is not that far from being banned. There's certainly plenty of calls for it in light of all the problems of late.
California's got a massive fight in their hands.
Is it right? Is there state legislation that's been proposed in California?
It's just more of the activists are raising up against trying to prevent industry moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I'm a longtime fan of it, and Santa Anita is still a good place to go. Getting a little run down, but still a fabulous place and a great place to go. But yeah, attendance is the times I've been there recently has not been strong.
It's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite places in the world. And I lived in LA for 15 years, and I loved Hollywood Park. I love and I love Santa Anita. And we actually have we did a truly beautiful version of Santa Anita for Stronach and for the Breeders' Cup years ago, which we've updated, and hopefully we'll someday get to use it.
When was the last time you were at Santa Anita?
Geez, years,
While?
3 or 4 years.
Yeah. I was there a few years ago, and it just didn't have a great feel to me. But then I spoke to someone else who went there recently and said that no, they thought that it's been renovated recently. So I hope so. I mean,
I was there pre-COVID, so it's been a while.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Appreciate the interview. Jonathan Strause, founder, CEO, chairman of Invincible GG. These guys seem to be onto something. For our casual viewer and listener out there, what should they be watching? Where should they expect to see you guys next, or be looking for your product?
I would follow us on Twitter. That's the best place to kind of stay connected with us. And Owners Club GG is so at Owners Club GG is the Twitter handle. And that's.
And if somebody wanted to buy a horse, can they still buy a horse?
Well, they can soon. Our recent sales, as I said, sold out. So there's no horses available right now, which we're really excited about because it's in a down market. But later this month, we'll be doing another sale, and they can definitely participate.
All right, and they'll find out about that where?
On Twitter.
On Twitter.
Or our website, which is ownersclub.invinciblegg.com.
All right, Jonathan, really appreciate it. And thank everybody for watching and listening. We'll be back soon with another episode of Double Down with Breslo.
I want you to smash that like button.